Metrobank is the first ever champion partner of women's and girls cricket. And this year, together with the ECB, they are launching the Metrobank Girls in Cricket Fund with the ambition of tripling the number of girls cricket teams by the end of 2026. Metrobank want to provide more chances for women and girls to thrive in their community and to create more positive role models. So through the Girls in Cricket Fund, they'll be focusing on recruiting, educating, supporting and celebrating the people that make girls cricket in clubs happen. To get involved, head to metrobankonline.co.uk/cricket. Hello and welcome to the Wisden Women's Cricket Weekly podcast, a slightly different show for you today. We've got a fascinating interview with the recently retired Pakistan icon, Bismah Maroof. We'll talk about one of the more exciting up-and-coming youngsters in the English regional setup, and we'll be talking about some of the wider questions around the international game. I'm Rana, and with me as always is Lauren Winfield-Hill. Lauren, we'll kick off the show with Katya Witney's chat with Bismah Maroof. What are your memories of competing against Bismah?
Yeah, she's an unbelievable competitor. I think she was always that thorn in your side when you played against Pakistan. Very gritty player. And you know, fair play to her. She evolved her game a lot, the back end of her career. She was always somebody that she was a devil to try and get out. You know, she just didn't give her wicket away. And that almost became a little bit of a flaw of hers. But towards the back end of her career, she worked incredibly hard in terms of her strike rate and being able to sort of take the game to the opposition a lot earlier in her innings. But yeah, she's a fantastic player. I actually think it's a real shame that she's retired. You know, when I played over there in the PSL, she captained one of the sides over there, and she's still such a fantastic player. There's nobody, you know, I think Laura Wolfart's cover drive and Bismah Maroof over extra cover are two of the most beautiful shots in the women's game. But yeah, no, she was just such a gritty competitor.
Well, it's a fascinating chat with Katya. They touch on Maroof debuting as a 15-year-old after just being spotted in the nets. They talk about her 17-year-long international career, and they also talk about Bismah captaining Pakistan as a mother.
So we've just come on here to talk a little bit about your decision to retire and look back at your career in general. So when you did make that decision to retire, was it a hard decision to come to?
Definitely, it was very hard. It was tough. It is a tough decision for every cricketer. But I think it wasn't sudden. I have thought a lot about it, and after discussion with my family and where I am standing in my phase of life. So I think that was for me, that was the appropriate decision at that time. So I can give more time to my family and give time to the Pakistan team as well, that they can build, a combination for the World Cup.
And how did your teammates react when you told them that you were going to retire?
It was quite emotional for everyone. They all were crying, of course, me as well. Because the connection I have got with the girls, I think we are very much connected, and it was quite sudden for them as well, and definitely it was emotional.
And you often hear players talk about that they just know when to retire, that they feel like they've achieved everything. Is that how you felt?
Yes. I think for everyone, as I said before, it's very hard decision, and you doesn't know what is the right time, and of course your passion is always there, and for me as a cricketer, you always want to play. But having said that, I think for the understanding of the life, yes, cricket is a part of life, but it's not a life. So so you have to think bigger and take the decision out of it.
And you've played for Pakistan since you were 15 years old, so it must be quite an adjustment to make to life without international cricket.
It is. It is. I think family life is very different, and giving more time in the home. I think I haven't spent much time at home, and so it's a very different feeling. I didn't get any routine yet, and because it was all about cricket routine I have got for 15, 17 years. So yeah, I'm also adjusting it, and of course Fatma is there. So yeah, spending quality time with her.
And looking back at your career since you made your debut as a teenager, how has the Pakistan team changed over the course of that time?
A lot of changes, I think, has been made throughout these years, and especially that recognition, the modern day cricket now you have seen, and acceptance from the people all around the world. Women's cricket, existence is there now, and everybody is talking about women's cricket, and especially in the social media. I think it's more popular now, and of course itself the game has changed, the more power has come, so I think overall the dynamics of cricket has been changed.
And how do you think the path for young girls coming through into the Pakistan team today will be different than the one that you had to tread?
For me, when I debuted, I haven't played any domestic cricket, any domestic match. I, got selected in for the team directly. I think the pathway at that time was not there. But if I talk about right now, I still believe pathway is still not there. They are making it, but having said that, I think they are getting more matches now, and they are more players to come. They wanted to play, and at that time there was very limited pool, but we have got some pool of players now. They wanted to play and represent Pakistan.
So you said you hadn't played a domestic match before you were selected for Pakistan. How did you get selected then when you started?
One of our selector has seen me in the nights, and I was very young, and I remember Hong Kong was touring Pakistan, and he said she has a talent, and I think we should groom her with the team, and with the time she'll be developed, and I think he has that eye that I can, represent Pakistan and play for long. They got me selected at that time.
That's incredible. And we're hearing news about possible plans for a WPSL later this year or in the near future. What are your thoughts on how that can help growth for women's cricket in Pakistan?
I think it's very, very important to have a league for ourselves because we have played some exhibition matches, 3 exhibition matches. I think that was incredible. The experience we got with the international players, exposure we got with them. We have shared dressing room, we have shared field with them. I think the insights we got, I think that was a very, very much learning for us, and of course for the youngsters as well. It was very unfortunate we didn't get any matches last year, this year as they have planned for it. But I hope it should have done in the future. I think it will help our players to groom for the competitive cricket, and because we haven't got much players going for the leagues outside. So I think it's much needed for us to have a league ourselves, and we can develop our strength here.
And we talk about, that gap between Australia, India, and England, and then the teams below. Do you think a women's PSL is one of the most important thing in trying to attempt to close that gap?
Yeah, I think so. It's very, very important to have a league ourselves, and international players are coming there, and you're getting know each other, and having talk about the cricket. I think that's very important because I have experienced that because I've captained the side when it was the exhibition matches. One of the team I was in the captaining in the exhibition matches, and I've discuss with the players, with the international players, how they go about their games and what their things at different situations. I think that was a learning for me as well, and of course it was a learning for me. Definitely it will help our youngsters, so in the leagues they are getting groomed, and before touching the international side, I think it's very important to have a competitive cricket ourselves so they can prepare well for the international level.
And back on your career, what are your proudest moments from representing Pakistan?
I think for me, if I see, firstly, I wasn't wanted to be a professional cricketer. That was my family. They have, they give me the support and, give me the aim. You have a talent and you can opt it. And then I found like, that's, I can, carry, and I'm enjoying it. I think firstly, what I feel proud of is that the daughters and their parents, they want their daughters to come and play cricket in Pakistan. I think that is a huge difference we have made, and I think all the former players, the hard work, the hard yards they have put in, I think the proudest moment, I think that's for me, and of course for the former players as well.
And you've got this status as a trailblazer for women in general in cricket and women in Pakistan in cricket. How does that kind of tag make you feel?
Firstly, I think I'm very, very blessed and grateful, and I haven't thought that I'll play after motherhood. And I think the kind of standard I've set or what I've achieved, I think I'm very blessed. And of course, the support system I've got, it has because of them, I could have achieved that level. But on the other hand, I think it's a huge responsibility. Because you got, you're representing team, you are captaining Pakistan, and then you have motherhood, you're taking care of your child. I think that's a very, very high pressure things which I was doing. And but yeah, I think I'm very, very blessed, and it got me that responsibility that I could have I can change thinking of the young girls or the women out there who wanted to carry their careers and the motherhood and the family life as well.
And what were some of your most challenging moments during your playing career?
Challenging, I think my injuries. I have been I have, I think, 3 or 4 comebacks in my career because of the injuries, and especially in my captaining when I was captaining Pakistan. I think that was, I think, very hard moments because it wasn't easy to come back after injury, and of course then I got a motherhood as well. So yeah, I think that a lot of hard work I have to put in.
And you touched on it there, that one of the most important parts of your legacy is returning to international cricket after becoming a mother, and the maternity leave policy subsequently introduced by the PCB. Could you tell me a bit about what that period in your playing career in 2021 when you were pregnant with Fatima and beyond?
When I was living team in my pregnancy time, I got a feeling that I should have come back, and I wasn't satisfied that I have given my full to this team. So inside me or back of the mind, there was in my mind that I might there is something here that was not satisfying me, and I wanted to come back and give back the experience I got and share with the youngsters. Then I think credit to the PCB, the persons who were there at that time, especially Roj Mumtaz and Wasim Khan was there. And I came to know about the parental policy, and that was a surprise for me as well. And I was very much excited, and I got the clarity at that time. Yeah, if my board is supporting me, then I should have come back and give whatever I can, and at least I should try. If I can get the possible fitness, I know I'll be okay with the skills. I'll get more time, but it's very important to get your fitness well. And yeah, I think that was the main goal at that time, and Alhamdulillah, that all I have achieved.
Could you tell me a little bit about what getting that fitness back or the process of that was like? Because I think any woman or any person hearing that just immediately goes, "That's incredible. I couldn't even imagine doing that after such a life-changing experience."
I think firstly, I was very much into it that the delivery process should be normal if I wanted to come back, and I persist on that. But some of the doctors said, I think your case is like to have a C-section, but I was very much reluctant, and I was said no. I'll give a shot for a normal case, and but I think Alhamdulillah, all the praise was there, and I got a normal delivery. I think that has helped me to come back sooner. And I remember after 40 days of delivery, I went to the gym and start training. And yeah, of course, but I have an understanding at that time. I can't push myself harder. It's a slow process. I give yourself a time and then see where you are after a one and a half month. And I remember after 1.5 months, I have joined the team. I have joined the players, and yeah, I got that fitness, and yeah, that was incredible, and I've couldn't imagine now how I have done that.
And just a few months after having Fatima, you were at the 2022 World Cup in New Zealand, and there were some iconic photos of India and your daughter during that tournament. What was it like having such a young baby in tow during that tournament?
I think that was a very different thing for whole of the cricketers as well there, and because no one has the baby in the team, or we haven't seen in the World Cups, or I think that was a different experience for the whole cricketers as well. So they have appreciated me, and they love Fatima, and they all played with her. And I remember the India's photos got viral. I haven't met with the Indian team before the match. I've seen many teams or the players in my hotel. They have seen Fatma and appreciated and encouraged me. But after the match, I have got the time. The Indian players have come and they have seen Fatma and appreciated me, and yeah, that was the whole picture.
And what's it been like having her in tow with you over the last few years of your career?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's a very different experience. And first of all, that is the more satisfying thing for me, that I have balanced my professional life and my motherhood, because Fatma is very, very important to me. I couldn't leave her because of my career. I think it's a mother responsibility. So I think that's very much I have achieved, and I'm very much satisfying that, yeah, I've balanced both, and Alhamdulillah, it all had went well.
And do you have any regrets from your playing career, or anything you wish you'd done differently?
Not really, not really. If I've done some mistakes, I think that was a learning for me, and that have make me more mature and more wise for the next decisions I have to make in my life. And yeah, but Alhamdulillah, I think there's nothing I would have regret, or yeah, I've enjoyed all whole my career.
And looking at the Pakistan team now, we've just seen them complete a couple of series in England, and the T20 World Cup's not that far away. What position do you see the team in now with that T20 World Cup in mind?
I think before the World Cup, what my thinking was, it's very important to get the role clears for the players, and they know that who's playing, who's their playing 11, who are the openers, or who are the middle order batters, and who will be opening with the with the bowling side. So I think that is the clarity you should have know about before the World Cup. And I think that was the matches they have played, and I hope that they got the clarity. And for the World Cup, I think it just to get the balance out the pressure, and because there will be pressure, of course, and we should have we should embrace that pressure and play to our potential. And the result you can't guarantee. It's just the efforts we have put in. I think that we should give 100%, and yeah, we should have prepared ourselves better. And I hope this team play really well in the World Cup.
And lastly, do you have any plans for your retirement? What are you looking at doing in the immediate future?
Not yet. Not sure of that. Because yeah, I'm enjoying my family life right now, and especially with Fatma. So yeah, I haven't thought about it yet.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking time out today. I know you've had a busy week, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Katya. Thank you.
So we heard there about the route Bismah Maroof had into international cricket. Nearly 2 decades on, there probably hasn't actually been as much change in Pakistani domestic cricket as you'd hope. I'll just run through some bits of info on the structure. So there was progress last year in that they contracted 80 domestic players on top of the 20 centrally contracted players for the first time, which was progress, but the structures around the players in terms of coaching, management and pathways didn't really exist in the way you'd ideally want it to. There's not really a defined pathway for players to get picked up from, and you still generally need parents who are extremely supportive, as there aren't those structures to support players' development. Lauren, we've come a long way in a short period of time in the UK, But without a proper structure as you have in Pakistan, you just lose out on so much talent, right? Especially if, as a youngster, you can't see cricket as being a stable career option.
Yeah, there's always that sort of cliche sort of slogan thrown around, is you can't be what you can't see. But it's so true, and it holds so much body behind that, because it's, you know, cricket has boomed over here in England because we've invested in it, and it's become a genuine pathway and a genuine career opportunity. And I think, you know, if you roll back the clock to sort of 20, 25 years ago, it was probably a similar situation whereby you grew up and you played boys cricket. I played all of my cricket with the boys until I got onto the county pathway and into the structure. But if there's no recognisable pathway, then any talent that is out there, there's probably hundreds of girls in Pakistan that really want to play cricket that haven't yet picked up a bat. But then once they do that, there's nowhere for them to go. And I think that's a real genuine issue. And it just makes that whole sort of transition and, I guess, ease of being able to play the sport so challenging. You know, you want it to be accessible to all. And if it becomes difficult, then people are going to choose other routes, other careers, other hobbies, interests, whatever that might be, that's easy and accessible.
And also, when you don't have a structure in place, you know, if Pakistan are playing on the TV, commentators will talk about amazing individual stories, and those are great, but it's too reliant on amazing individuals to get a team out there that can compete, which is such a barrier to competing against the big sides down the line.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where the stories are incredible and so inspiring. You know, the story of Bismah Maroof is incredibly inspiring. But I think what you think of her as like this icon that's gone through so much to just be able to play the game, versus how many are slipping through the net that just haven't had the same either support or sort of been in the right place, the right time, in front of a coach or whatever it might be to sort of get talent spotted, so to speak. Is how many slip through the net. You know, how many, to every Bismah Maroof, how many are we losing or not finding, or, you know, that are really keen to play the game but don't have the opportunities or the parent support or whatever that might be to be able to play. So where the stories are incredible, it's the stories that we don't hear about and the girls that don't get to play, that would love to play, that, you know, should be the real talking point.
Fear is probably the wrong word, but do you fear that the countries that have invested so heavily in women's cricket over the last few years might pull away from those that aren't to an even bigger degree than we currently see? You know, England and Australia in particular, India as well, have put so much money and investment into women's cricket in the last few years. And if Pakistan are only just getting to the point where these countries were best part of a decade ago, that gap, which is already sizable, is just going to widen.
Yeah, I think fear is a very valid word. You know, it sounds pretty heavy and intimidating, but it's very valid. You know, I think the gap is getting bigger all the time, and those top few teams are breaking away from the pack. And you know, the thing is as well is it can't be good for players playing in those series where the gap is just enormous. We heard a little bit about John Lewis speaking about Sophie Eccleston. The hardest thing he will have with her is managing, and in managing her will be keeping her interested all the time and creating challenge. And you know, if you're only getting that against the top few teams, and vice versa, you know, that works the other way, where Pakistan may only have real good competitive cricket against Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, or, you know, sometimes West Indies when their big players aren't playing, whatever that might be. You know, that's not against every country that takes part in international cricket. That's 3 or 4 teams at the top and 3 or 4 teams at the bottom. And I think it is a really worrying time for women's cricket. You know, and I think there's got to be something almost broader and more global that's implemented across all these countries, whether it's sort of the ICC or on, you know, these different boards that pull together and look after international cricket on the whole. Is, you know, some of these teams need a real nudge, and these countries need a real nudge, and they need support. And I think, you know, it's probably somewhere out there that looks after the global game needs to almost intervene and say, well, you know, if you're gonna play international cricket, these are the systems and the support structures that you need in place. So whether it's an under-19s program or an academy, or, you know, you need to have regional or domestic or county or whatever that looks like, meets where your girls get opportunity to train, and there's a pathway that's obvious, because at the minute it's just like a giant leap of faith from obviously playing cricket in Pakistan to then going to play international cricket, and you're competing in World Cups and you're playing against some of the best teams and players in the world. At times it's almost not fair. It feels like the teams should play against each other that have the same support structures. Otherwise, it's like a heavyweight going against, a lightweight.
I almost don't know what should happen in that case, because you almost want to say to boards like Pakistan, you need to get your house in order. But you've already got players who want to play international cricket who've shown that they can compete at international level. So it's not that clear what you do and what's best for their development if there's not that much region. I mean, I guess cricket as a sport is more centered around the international game and international teams competing against each other than a lot of other sports are. Do you think that women's cricket should be as focused on the international game as it is? We've seen the success of the WPL, WBBL, the 100, etc. Do you think that should be almost the focus of women's cricket more than international cricket, because of how few countries have invested big money into it over the last few years?
I think we're on a real tipping point, aren't we? The scales are like, they're just about to go one way or another. And I think I think the thing is that international cricket can't hold back the countries that deserve to fly, because they've invested so heavily. And you talk about those franchise comps and the countries that have invested in them. They want to expand women's cricket and take women's cricket to another level. It's almost like if you're not on board, the ship's sailing. And I think it's in a real, like I say, it's in a real fine point at the minute where, it'll only take another couple of tournaments to pop up in different countries, whether it's South Africa invest in on the back of the SAT20 or whatever that might be. They've had the World Cup over there was a massive success for South Africa, and it boosted a real interest in women's cricket. It's those teams should also be rewarded for the investment and the support and the financial input that they've made. But it's certainly a worrying time, because you sort of feel like, just using the England versus New Zealand series, we're not talking about the same sort of top of the table versus bottom of the table clashes, but with clashing with the WPL. Now, if there's a series where, I don't know, Australia are playing Bangladesh, for example, and that's not going to be the highest competition that those players are going to play in, they might be able to play in the 100 or the WPL at the same time. For their careers and their, competing as an athlete, you want to compete and you want to go toe to toe with the best that's available at that time. Well, with all due respect, the best available at that time would not be that international series.
I mean, you mentioned the John Lewis quote about Sophie Ecclestone. Do you think that's a genuine problem for the best players, in that you actually will have a challenge, almost forget the money for a second, just keeping them interested in terms of a competition point of view?
I think so. I think it's a genuine concern for somebody like Sophie Ecclestone, who, let's be honest here, the bigger the stage, the bigger the occasion, the Ashes, the World Cups, the more that's riding on it and the greater the challenge, she thrives. She steps up. That gets her beans going. That's what she wants. And it's if some parts of international cricket don't give her that, then it's a challenge for John Lewis to try and find something that almost, creates that zest and that like real want and desire to do well. And I think, it's a lot, it's all right saying, yeah, but international's the pinnacle. And I'm not saying that it's not. But for some players, for the best players in the world, they need to be pushed and they need to be in challenge. And I think, at times that would genuinely be a concern for John Lewis with some of his best players.
back to the UK. So every now and then on the show over the course of summer, we're going to talk about one young player in the regional system who's yet to play for England. There was an amazing performance this week from the 16-year-old South East Stars left arm spinner Tilly Courtine-Coleman, who took 4 wickets in 4 balls at the death against the Diamonds. Lauren, she's very tall, so I imagine she's going to get a lot of Sophie Ecclestone comparisons. You saw her closely over the last week. How good is she?
Yeah, I think it's really funny actually, because we were talking about Sophie Ecclestone, and I thought, am I throwing her in the deep end there if I compare her to Sophie Ecclestone? But I actually saw Tilly a couple of years ago when she came and sort of net bowled at the Oval Invincibles. And I remember I said to JB, our head coach, I said, gee, she's good. She's got great control, gets turn, gets bounce. And I said, she's going to be really good. Like, she has a lot of, she's and I don't want to sort of throw her under the bus with the old Sophie Ecclestone comment, but I do think there's a lot of similar traits in that she's got a really repeatable action. She's got good control. And I think the thing is, we've seen with Sophie Ecclestone, why is she so good? Well, she is so good because she can turn the ball a lot more than most in the women's game, but she gets bounce. And I think that's the biggest difference between her and a lot of other spinners in international women's game. Even if you look at somebody like Sophie Molyneux, Jess Jonathan, both really, quality left arm spinners. Lindsay Smith's a quality left arm spinner in England, but they're all small in stature. So they become easier to sweep, or, it's easier to play off the back foot because you don't get as much bounce. And also just that sort of energy and the dip on the ball is a bit different. And I think she's very similar. Like I say, she's very tall. She gets good bounce. And like I said, when I first faced her, like sometimes you just play against, and I didn't realize she was 15 at the time either. I thought, well, this is absolutely frightening. But she just got control and didn't seem phased by coming into bowl at, you got Marizanne Kapp in the next net. Didn't feel sort of phased by the environment and stuff like that. So I think she's a hugely promising player. I'm really excited that she's got the opportunity actually with the South East Stars. She didn't play in the 50 over stuff, and I think she can, because I think she's somebody that's not only sort of going to attack the stumps in T20 cricket. I think she's somebody that will be able to hold long threatening spells. But yeah, I think she's got huge promise for the future for sure, and it seems like a bold comparison, but I think if you watch her play and watch her bowl, I think there's a lot of people that would jump to that comparison.
Well, definitely one to keep an eye on throughout this summer. That's everything for today. Cheers, Lauren. And remember that the Metrobank Girls in Cricket Fund is in collaboration with the ECB, and it's aiming to triple the number of girls cricket teams by breaking down barriers and creating support and inclusive spaces. Help transform the game. Head to metrobankonline.co.uk/cricket to champion the future of girls cricket.